Welcome to the Tropical MBA podcast, where we share real stories and strategies from location-flexible, personal freedom-focused entrepreneurs that you can use in your own business. I got to work on my editing.
I imagine an eagle during that talk right there.
There's a lot of freedom
American
going on.
flag, because I'm in America, but maybe there's other flags if you're somewhere else. But I had a vision there.
Yes. Who says I'm freedom focused? I don't know. Whether you're just getting started or building an 8-figure brand, let's have some fun and talk business. I'm trying to rewrite this. It might take me a few weeks, but look, growing a business from your laptop that builds you wealth, location, and time flexibility is completely doable. And the people who listen to this podcast do it all the time. Little vignette for you, boss man. A few years ago, a guy emails me, says, "Hey, I love the podcast. I am trying to grow this agency." We get in touch. We talk business. We do the thing we do on this podcast. No BS. We just talk business. What's your goal? Let's get to it. How can we get there? Cool. We keep in touch over the years. Yesterday, I'm at a business meeting with you. I spot this guy across the room. Nice outfit, good skin, amazing hair. I think I know this guy. We recognize each other. I say, "Hey, it's the same guy that emailed me a few years ago." We spark up a conversation. I say, "What's new with that business you were struggling with? You were working, you were inspired, you were getting off the ground." He says, "Funny you should ask. I just exited that business for multiple millions of dollars." This guy's not just working out in the public area of the co-working space. He's got private office. He's got a view. Anyway, I tell the story because I don't know, everybody starts somewhere. We're all starting over with something. And the goal of this podcast is to get our heads around how it works. What are the steps that lead to these types of outcomes? This listener's life is completely changed from here on out. And he is on a completely different trajectory. You could see the pep in his step because now he's got incredible amount of options. He's got capital. He's got know-how. He's got confidence, all because step by step, no hype, no BS, built an incredible location-independent business. How about that?
Now I'm kind of getting this vision of the eagle with a big fish in its claws taken off from the water.
Delicious.
Yeah, just caught it, man.
Put it on the podcast badge. All right, Ian, at the top, I went to DCBKK this year with one big problem I wanted to solve. So essentially, the concept is, how do you get value out of a mastermind, out of a phone call with an entrepreneur, out of a conference? And the tip I got from Timothy Mosier, who's in DC Black, he said, "Look, I take a piece of paper and a notebook just like this, and I write down the big problem that's going to be the unlock for me." And the challenge for me was, I wanted to retool DC Accelerator. We had this really interesting product last year. Over 50 listeners of this podcast joined us in this year-long odyssey to grow their businesses, to improve their businesses. The thing about the product, we threw the kitchen sink at it, right? There was all kinds of meetings, all kinds of virtual sessions. We had an event here in Austin. It was really fun. I'm still communicating with so many listeners who came through that program. The problem was, it was just kind of all over the shop. And there was different levels of value. And so what's the theme here? The theme that listeners can take away is, I wanted to simplify and focus the product on what was the most valuable. So when I went to DCBKK, this is how I went around the conference. It's I had this one big thing. How can I simplify the value exchange in DC Accelerator? So I went around to people who were in the program. I talked to people who have been in similar types of programs. And it's cool. It's just, again, clarity. And I was all right, I'm just going to be clear. I want to improve this product. There was even a moment when one of the smartest people at the conference, I was in a tuk-tuk. We had a tuk-tuk parade across Bangkok. And I was the last person basically to get into a tuk-tuk, I thought. And I was ready just to maybe chill for 30 minutes across town and get back into the party, get back into the scene. And all of a sudden, guess who rocks up? Daniel, this guy who is an incredible founder and has been through a lot of business acceleration programs. And so he sits next to me. We've got 30 minutes across town in Bangkok. It's like a gold mine. He was so generous with me. And it all came down to like these serendipities and me having clarity around what I wanted to talk about and what would be a big unlock for me. I hope it was fun for Daniel too, because he is like giving me the value that I need. So now like I owe Daniel one, you know what I mean? Because like he was just unloading all this incredible information for me. So shout out to Daniel, but just shout out to the idea of facing up to your challenges, going to conferences, meeting with other founders, and just continuing to workshop it. That's the process. So anybody listening at home, I mean, for me, it was like trying to break apart the program that we did last year and dig into the moments where entrepreneurs got the most value. And I think this is the case across all of our businesses, is like we're just doing so many things. We throw the kitchen sink at all these challenges, and it's like we need a spring cleaning for value delivery across our companies. Like, let's throw out the software we're not using. Let's throw out the features people don't value. Let's simplify what we're doing and find a minimum effective dose. I had a business coach some time ago that said something to me that turned me off at the time, but I have since changed my perspective on it. And he said to me, Dan, what you want to figure out here is what is the least that you can do to provide that meaningful value exchange with your customers. And at the time I was like, no, I want to find the most I can do. Which kind of makes sense. It's like this martyr attitude, but the concept is find the leverage. And at the beginning of a business, you don't have leverage. And so you do everything, right? And I think this process for us is like we did so many sessions of like DC Scale and DC Accelerator. We did executive coaching. We're doing all these value exchanges and really trying to zero into what is the most valuable element. So you ready to hear what I believe to be the most valuable element?
Please. Accelerator 2.0. Let's hear it.
The biggest value exchange happens during the diagnostic and the onboarding and the setting of the plan. Then the follow-ups are very founder dependent, depending on the rhythm and cadence of that particular founder. So the process of downloading all kinds of financial information, team information, market analysis, historical data, and behaviors in the business, doing a detailed diagnostic. Me and you, we love that. It's like mowing your lawn for the first time after 3 months. It's just, we're going to look at everything and we're going to find the one or two things that are like, that's it. That is the piece of data we need to zero in on, and we need to simplify the rest of this thing. We go back and forth, we do some analysis, we send it around to the CFO, we send it around to people we know, and then we develop a very simple plan for meeting the goal. And I remember during the accelerator, me and you like getting off of those first calls with the clients, and it's like enormous value exchange. And so for me, I think what needs to happen for future accelerator programs, we need to focus on this diagnostic and planning process, and then have the continuity be elective based on what each particular founder wants. So, hey, you want to talk to me every quarter? You want to talk to me every month? You want to talk to me every week? You want to come hang out with me? Whatever. Elect your continuity at that point based on your rhythm of executing on this plan. Because some people need to go away on a plan for 6 months.
Right.
Remember, we had a similar planning session where the results were kind of so profound in terms of an organizational change that it basically took us 6 months to execute on the plan we walked from. There are other businesses that you want to follow up in a week or that you want to follow up in a quarter. And so I think that needs to be variable and not like a catch-all where then the value exchange becomes like sort of different and spotty across the product. So that was my big takeaway. I walked into DCBKK, I took Timothy Mosier's advice. I had one simple thing. And by the time I landed back in Austin, I had the whole product finished. And that to me is the value of these masterminds, of these meetups, having 5 people you can call that speak your language, or going to conferences like DC conferences, like literally done, Ian, like 5 pages finished.
Yep.
So pretty cool.
I'll add one thing, which is, from the outside, it seems like you're going around and the first thing that you say to people is like, hey, I've got this problem, help me solve it. But that's not really how these conferences work. And that's not how you're going to be most successful kind of solving your problem. The way that you're going to be most successful solving your problem is by walking around and saying, hey, I'm Dan, this is my business. What do you think I can help you with? Or what is your biggest challenge right now? Asking people first their biggest challenge. Figuring out if you know anybody that can help them, or maybe you can help them, or just workshopping with them, just listening to them, talk about their business. Most likely, the people closest to them in their life at home don't want to talk to them about this stuff, or they're not equipped to kind of help them with it. So just getting in a room with people that can help you talk through problems is a win. And then eventually what happens is they ask you, they say, well, Dan, what's your biggest challenge? So you start with the giving and then you end with the getting most of the time.
Yeah. And as long as, you're authentic and you have that clarity of what you're looking for, it becomes very easy to circle the wagons around that challenge and get it knocked out. It's remarkable because it's so simple, but I find that it's really easy to have like a bunch of problems going on and not really like step up to the plate and be like, this is the thing. This is the thing that I want to solve. And that's part of what the executive coaching process is about, is like, we all got a lot of problems, but can we define the one that is the meaningful one?
Yeah.
Can we be brave enough to do that? And it's remarkably difficult to do, to zero in on the one key constraining challenge. Alrighty, and bottom line, we've got some clarity around how we can help listeners grow better businesses, and we're going to be rolling that out in the new year. So pretty simple, pretty cool. I'm excited about it. Yeah, buddy. All right. Next segment, we have a listener question, which is our favorite kind of segment. Matthew from sailboatmechanic.com. Right. What a great domain, Matthew. So put that on the mantle. Fantastic domain. How do I get customers to opt into my new online business model? Okay, so Matthew writes, I have a mobile marine boat repair business in Portland, Oregon, but I have moved to the Philippines and I'm trying to convert my business to online consulting for boat owners, troubleshooting diagnostics, and FaceTime guidance on repairs. And I just wondered if you might have any ideas on how I can drive customers to my website and get as many customers as possible getting used to this new format of basically online sailboat mechanicking.
What a niche.
I saw this and I was like, dude, this is awesome.
This is such a cool niche. Okay. Well, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
This is a difficult one, obviously. It's a cool niche, but it's a difficult one because Matthew is now in the Philippines, but his business is back in Portland. So as I understand it, he has a skill of being able to fix boats, which is awesome. Now he's in the Philippines, where there's also a lot of boats, so maybe there's an opportunity there. But my understanding is that he wants to figure out a way to kind of have a virtual business. So maybe advise people on fixing their boats worldwide.
Yeah. And I think it's common to start with the traffic thing. Like somehow like traffic is always the problem. If I just had more traffic, and I'm actually not going to start there. What I'm going to start with is the goal. So what is the specific goal? Is it, I want to pay my rent? Is it, I want to make $5,000, $10,000, $15,000? I want to grow $1 million business. Let's work backward from a goal. That's the first thing. The second thing, before I'm thinking about traffic, I want to think about the offer, both in terms of the value to me and the value to the marketplace. So the first obvious question is, do people want this kind of thing? Like, what is the value of a remote service, a virtual service versus something that's in person at the marina? So, why do we have the perspective that this is valuable to the marketplace versus like, I want to do it this way because I moved. So I think that that's important. In terms of the value of the offer to me, and this is where the traffic piece comes in, I want to look at the potential LTV of each particular client I get. So typically when I'm thinking about like LTV, I'm not thinking actually about lifetime value. I'm thinking about like, let's call it, how much money can we exchange within 6 days or 6 months? So what is that initial offer during the sales process? And then what's going to come back to me within the first 6 months of having that client, because that's money that I can then put back into my marketing engine. So again, if you have like some LTV, like they're going to call me back next year and we'll do like $100 a year, it's not like enough cash flow typically in a new venture to get that marketing engine going. So we want the value exchange to happen up front. So I'm actually going to shop offers and workshop offers here, Matthew, at the very beginning, which is like, if you have a customer who's very hard to find, who might not like this product, who's only going to spend $75 an hour and they're going to do it every year and a half, well, that might be a non-starter. We might not be actually incentivized enough to go out and figure out where all this, quote, traffic is going to come from. So we're starting with the fundamental offer. And this is where entrepreneurship comes in. We're not necessarily just doing our craft on the internet. It's like, well, maybe we construct something that involves our craft, but gets people engaged in a higher value exchange. So there's this concept from Jay Abraham called like highest and best. What is like that highest level of offer that the target market, so people that own sailboats that may have problems, what other things, might they have challenges with? Like, first thing that jumps out to me is I own a mobile marine boat repair business in Portland, Oregon. Well, there's a lot of people that run those kinds of businesses. Do they run them well? Do they need help? You could help people run marinas. You could help people buy boats. You could help people sell boats. That all involves like engine repair and understanding about those things.
Yep.
But this is like that next level. Like each transaction, if I'm selling a boat, a broker could make 5 figures off of a brokerage deal. So we want to ask ourselves that this is where we get to this offer thing, which is like, does your engine need a check before you sell it? Is that checkout worth more? Like, this engine is certified to be sold. Is that worth more than an hourly consult fee just to fix the engine in the first place? So we're going from highest to best. We want to look at what are the examples of the highest LTV offers. So if, for example, think about the difference between $75 an hour for a consult or $150 or whatever it is versus, hey, if I get it checked out or the brokerage fee, I'm getting $5,000 from this customer within the first 6 months, or I'm helping the business owner at $1,500. Now we're getting that cash in the door. We can actually go out and invest in marketing and be really incentivized to find the people who need the service.
I agree 100%. There's a huge value chain in working on boats. And I think what you're pointing to is like the highest value might be in like selling the boats, helping people buy the boats, or helping people run the marinas. And so, a lot of people might listen to that and say like, well, that's fine, but I'm like a mechanic. And that's like what I want to do. Well, okay. If that's kind of where you're at and you don't see your skills developing, well, then you might be capped in some way, shape, or form, just in terms of your income. And I think that that's okay.
Well, I think you need to marry it with something typically, and that's where like the power of like unlocking value comes from. So here's a really interesting case study. There's an amazing YouTube channel called Bike Farmer. And the bike farmer's dream was to buy his childhood bike shop and fix bikes for normal people. Basically, bikes that people don't ride that much. They might like ride it to the bar or like take their kids on a ride, but these aren't like enthusiasts in spandex. You know what I mean? Like these aren't people who are spending big money on the bike. So this is obviously like not a great business because people buy cheap bikes. They don't want to fix them that much. So running a local bike shop is an absolute nightmare, right? Okay. So what does Bike Farmer do? He loves the craft of fixing these old bikes. So he decides, I'm going to become the Bob Ross of bicycle mechanicery. I am going to do these long form videos where I walk people through me spraying the lube into and it's really satisfying. And then he has these little rants. I watch it. I think it's amazing, right? And lo and behold, there are a lot of people who are passionate about that craft, and he's turned it into a media business. So if it is the case that the LTV of each instance is so low, perhaps you then go around to marinas in the Philippines and you have a perspective about why people want to watch this stuff. And this is kind of like the longer shot, the audience stuff, the media stuff, because now you got to advertise with Patreon or with advertising. But now Bike Farmer's doing collabs. Every video, he's like going back and forth, should I keep the bike shop? And the answer is, well, yeah, you got to keep the bike shop because that is the core, the soul of the brand is the fact that he owns this bike shop and he fixes these like really crappy bikes. It's amazing.
Yeah, and he doesn't hold back on his personality, which is interesting. He's got a lot of opinions about bikes, people, society, right? He does not hold back. So I think in this case of the roaming Philippines boat mechanic, I could see something equally as exciting. Going and fixing all these different boats in the Philippines and getting your perspective on it. So, like you're saying, Dan, I think it's okay if you don't want to own the marina, if you don't want to run the marina, if you don't want to broker boats, but you got to have some kind of perspective, like you said. And I think just the fact that this guy is living in the Philippines and he's made that transition, and now he's like working on boats there, that is a very interesting perspective that I think people would be interested to watch on YouTube.
Absolutely. So I think you could do a little bit of either or, but if I'm in Matt's position, like, and obviously we're on the outside, we don't know his background and everything.
Sure.
But what I see right now is an amazing domain with a catch-all. Like, I'm a complete expert. I can like basically solve your boat problem. What I would do is construct a specific offer that has a relatively high cash return and LTV, or like I'm getting a meaningful amount of value exchange. And instead of posting on the web, hoping to develop a channel, I am shopping my offer to specific people. Here's like what I can do for you. Here's the proof I can do it for you. Here's like my track record. Here's the types of people I help. You're that type of person. That's why you're hearing about it right now. And by the way, check out this cool content I'm creating that further demonstrates my ability. So I think you can do a little bit of either or here, because, basically we don't have like the money or the capital to like effectively develop distribution channels yet. So it's almost like you want to start that native distribution, which is like, man, people on YouTube really want to watch me fix these boats in the Philippines. So that could be like the channel you develop. And then simultaneously you're shopping offers and you're trying to figure out what marina owners want, what boat owners want, that can give you the capital required to both meet your goals and develop subsequent marketing channels in the future.
Yeah. So keep in mind, Matthew, as you know, and as the bike farmer knows, that oftentimes in your business, the mobile marine business and the bike business, payment is in the form of drugs and alcohol. So you might not get rich off this, but you will probably have a good time.
Matthew, thank you so much for writing in. Congratulations on your big move to the Philippines. It's super exciting. Keep us in the loop about what happens with sailboatmechanic.com. What a domain. How cool. Ian, next I came across, we'll call it Tweet of the Week. Jason Cohen is, I think, there's certain founders that are sure bets. And if you haven't followed Jason Cohen online or followed his journey, we've had the pleasure of meeting him multiple times. He's spoken at our events. And he has that kind of authenticity and transparency. He's not a hype guy. He is a guy who just gets it done. Like, if like your life depended on it, you needed somebody to run a business, it'd be like, let's get Jason Cohen in here.
100%.
Like, this guy's just going to make it happen. So he shared a tweet recently where he was reflecting on a speech given by Guillermo Rauch, who founded Vercel 5 years ago. So the goal of Vercel is to democratize web development and empower developers to ship better quality products faster. But what's the interesting part is Guillermo doesn't run this like a normal company. He's a self-taught developer. He has interests outside of the business. He's got 5 kids, but he's also grown Vercel to a $9.3 billion valuation. So when Guillermo speaks, people are listening, including Jason Cohen. And essentially what Jason's analysis is he listed 20 principles. And what Jason reflected on is like, look at how many of those principles have to do with speed. And it made me think, because we've been discussing this a lot in the business. And there's part of me that thinks there's these major forces in entrepreneurship, like leverage, capital, people, execution, all this. But speed is so much at the core of everything we do. In fact, we're almost trying to like speed up the universe in a business in a kind of a way, right? Like you want to figure out, like Matthew wants to figure out as fast as possible what boat owners truly want that's differentiated. He wants to get it to them faster. He wants the money to come into his account faster. He wants to get that marketing. And it's like, if we can just move our organizations faster, we will typically resolve to value faster. The customers will, we call cash return cycles coming faster. That's one of the fastest way to grow a business. Raising your pricing is a way to make value exchange happen faster. It's like a way to speed up the universe. And so we took a look at these 20 principles, and I just want to pull out 2 of them, and we'll post in the show notes the rest of them so you can reflect on them for your organization. Last year, we talked about the book Amp It Up, which is not a great title, such a better book than the title, but a similar kind of idea, which is like, how can you speed up your organization? It's like for everybody to reflect on what are the levers for speed. So here are my 2 favorite principles that Guillermo shared for our discussion. Number 1, reveal complexity gradually. Simple first, power later. I think this is important if we use even Sailboat Mechanic as a case study. It's very complicated to understand that there's an expert that can kind of do all this stuff. You can simplify it with a clear offer and deliverable. So you're galvanizing behavior faster. You're speeding these things up. One of the things we've really struggled with over the years is when we present offers, we will often present complicated offers with multiple options. Because, hey, options, man. Not bad. But what it actually net does is it's confusing of how to exchange value. It takes time to, not only are you figuring out whether you want to buy the thing or whether you value it, but now you're figuring out which options you want. And so this concept of revealing complexity gradually, getting people in on a simple offer, as they start to understand, now they're paid in, they're incentivized to understand, you're interacting with them. Now you can present something with more power. And so we've been focusing on this concept of timing. I wrote it on the whiteboard even, like what is the right timing for this message?
I think a lot of people, us included, Dan, they have the kind of a catch-all offer, especially when they're first starting a business. And like you said, we are even guilty of this. So it's like, here's the offer and there's all these things. And then you get some people to buy it. And then you're like, well, I don't really know what the thing was that they most valued. So now I got to ask them that. And then now we're 6 months down the road, and now I need to change my offer based on that information. And maybe you guess right, maybe you don't. So I wrote down just a simple thing. Speed equals more information. So the reason you want the speed is because you can get more information. That's in the universe, in the business, in your life, whatever it is. If you're moving fast, you're going to get more information. And what you need in a business, especially in the early days, is more information. So I think the idea that like you're going to put out a simple offer instead of a complex offer means you're going to get more information on that. It might not work, but then you get to move to the next simple offer and the next simple offer. Probably a better idea than offering multiple things and trying to decipher which one was the most important to people.
Well, I have a specific example. If you want to see this, if I guess you go to the Wayback Machine, we have a recruiting agency at remotefirstrecruiting.com. It used to be the case that you would have to go there and look at all of our pricing schedules, look at all the ways you could interact with us. And now you're starting to decide which level of service you need and blah, blah, blah. Here's the new thing, the simplicity, which is, do you want to hire your next great team member in South America in 21 days or less? If so, let's talk for 15 minutes about that. That's it. That's the simple offer. I am an expert in getting you that next person. I can guide you to it. And as we understand each other better, I will present to you the more powerful way you can do that, which is, hey, I think you'd be good for this particular option. You'll get it in 21 days. You pay your deposit right after the call, or you could present a different option. So this is just a timing thing. Like the timing was off was like, here's all our options, like assuming they understand how all this stuff works. And there's a lot to consider. But if you just want to hire somebody, how about we just talk for 15 minutes? So I mentioned that because a lot of us run agencies. And one of the takeaways of a lot of coaching calls is like, don't sell your complicated enterprise, like mid-market product on your website. Sell the call. Like, can you not just sell the conversation? Because if they're not willing to have a conversation, they're certainly not going to buy the mid-market thing. So why are we talking about that on your website? So it's breaking it down, and back to Guillermo, reveal complexity gradually. This applies to everything in life. You're onboarding people in terms of a SaaS. Like, what is the right timing for the powerful, complex information? Here's the second one. Momentum beats polish. Keep shipping and improving compounds. This is something that comes up all the time in our marketing. It's like, well, we can't say this thing until we have this piece of information, right? And so then we wait 2 weeks for a particular piece of information that we assumed was important for polish, right? We can't announce an event without having the venue address. So now we're going to wait for 2 weeks till we can verify the address in order to get the information if people are excited about people going to this city, right? So now the whole velocity of the messaging of the marketing is held up because we're waiting for one particular piece of information that we're just kind of assuming. And I mentioned the particularity because maybe something came up in your business like, well, I can't quite go back to that person, or I can't put out this message until I have this piece. And I think what it made me reflect on is, how do we keep momentum? Is there something alternative we can say that is equally valuable to keep the momentum? And the interesting thing about that is, if you have the momentum going, you might learn that what you assumed was important is no longer important. And now you have this compounding thing, which is like, okay, well, next time we say addresses, we always got to say this piece of information with the address works even better as a message. And so I think we stumble into all these happy accidents when we focus on momentum. When challenges come up, when you're getting stuck in a business, it's like, just work the problem. Just like keep working it. I think of this concept of like massage it every day. Don't wait until someone comes back with the promised solution 2 weeks from now.
I was working with a coaching client yesterday, Dan, and he thought the main problem was basically like, I got to like organize my leads in Zoho. It's like, I got leads coming in. It's like, I got to figure out where they're coming from and what they want. And, so I got to have this project in Zoho now where like I organize my leads. Therefore I can like properly address them. Yep. I was like, well, okay. Sounds like a, big project. What's the goal? Well, of course the goal is like more sales. So I got to like organize my leads. How many leads do you have? 4 leads a week. Okay. Don't need a project in Zoho for that. What we need to do is we need to talk to the customer. We need to figure out a way to, number one, answer every phone call, respond to every lead within an hour, talk to the customer and figure out what it is they want and try and execute for them. We don't need to organize our leads at that level. We need to figure out what the customer needs.
We always talk about like organizing your desk. Whenever you're like introducing a new tool, it's often the case, based on the scale of the challenges we face, that the correct answer is violent action. And in fact, when we do these coaching calls, our plans are designed to be so simple so that there's not a lot of like artifice around them. It's just like, this is the thing that needs violent action. You can turn it into a software tool later. The thing I really like about that vignette is that the whole theme of this episode for me is like the process of entrepreneurship. It started with the guy at the top of the episode who was struggling with his agency, and then he sold it for millions of dollars. And the promise of this podcast is that we show you what that process looks like. And it looks like exactly this. It looks like the gentleman who called you yesterday, he said, I've got this goal. Here's what I think needs to happen. I need honest, critical feedback about what needs to happen. And you keep going back to the grindstone. You keep simplifying and trying to get rid of the waste so that you can have momentum and clarity and occasional violent action towards the hypothesis. And then when you have a breakthrough, it can change your life. But getting Zoho into your business probably is not going to change your life. Posting on Facebook every week, probably not going to change your life. The answer is almost always the same, which is that the success or failure of your business relative to your goals sits on your desk. And defining the shortest path from where you're at to that goal is a difficult process that requires clarity, bravery, some analysis, and it's very well done when you can have somebody that you can call because you know them from the DC or some entrepreneurship meetup you're going to, or because you hired a coach that can dig in and say, this seems like a credible, high-speed path towards your goal. I will like hold your hand and encourage you to do this hard thing because it's easy to organize your desk. It's hard to reach out to every single lead you had in the last 60 days and ask them why they did not buy. Get on the phone with 20 of them and figure out what the missing piece of information is. If you're going to trust in anything, you can trust in at least this, is that there's a piece of knowledge out there in the world, in the marketplace, that is preventing you from getting to your goal. And if you can simply focus in on how can I find this piece of knowledge? It probably exists in my customers' heads, in my market heads, in my mentors' heads somewhere, and just bang away at it and try to find that piece of knowledge. It's a hard process. It never ends, but that's how you go from struggling with an agency to selling it for multiple millions of dollars. That is the process.
There you go.
All right, quick thing here at the end. I want to do some community news. Ian, we want to take a moment to talk about what we're working on. The biggest thing is over at dynamitecircle.com, which is a community we run for 6, 7, and 8-figure location independent founders. We are moving our Mexico event back to Mexico City. It is the big announcement. Everybody loves Mexico City. Everybody goes to Mexico City and they say, why don't I live in Mexico City for a month? Well, you can do that now around our event. It's a fantastic place. It was actually a petition in the DC that arrived on our desks. And the members said, look, we had fun down at the beach, guys, but let's move it back to the city. That is more DC style. Let's do it in the beautiful city of Mexico City. So we're excited to have a few hundred of you down in Mexico City. That event is, of course, members only. So if you run a 6, 7, or 8-figure location independent business, we'd love to hear from you over at dynamitecircle.com.
Final thing, Dan, I had a call the other day with a new DC Black member. He's actually not even in DC. So most of the people that join DC Black have been in the DC for a while. And then they have $1 million business. They want to join DC Black, come to the events that we have there, join private masterminds, WhatsApp group, all that good stuff. Okay. So having a conversation with them, listener of this podcast, wasn't sure if he would be a good fit. Multi-million-dollar business, but doesn't live out of his backpack. We talk about marketing. We talk about positioning. We've got some marketing work to do, Dan.
Well, what makes him a good fit?
Right. So what makes him a good fit is not that you live out of a backpack. Okay, that is the way that the DC started. We all used to live out of backpacks.
But it's cool if you live out of a backpack.
And you certainly can. But I would say the majority of members at this point do not live out of a backpack. However, if they chose to live out of a backpack, their business would allow them that opportunity. That's the difference now. As I own a business and I could.
This is backpackable. Yes, you could pack it in a pack and take it somewhere else.
So he was nervous, man. He's like, well, I don't know if I'm going to fit in. Okay, you're exactly the person that would fit in. You run a multi-million-dollar business. You have location freedom. This business in particular, very profitable. In a niche that you wouldn't expect. Like it's not an internet marketing type niche, but it is a location independent business. Meaning they essentially run little mini conferences, masterminds for a specific group of people.
So basically, if most people in your life have no clue how you make money and think you might have some weird shady thing going on or whatever,
right,
you're a great fit for the DC.
Exactly. So speaking of that, and DC Black New York City is coming up December 9th through the 11th. If you are thinking about joining this group of 7 and 8-figure entrepreneurs, you should certainly do that before the end of the year. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, coming to an event as soon as you join a community like this is a great idea. You get integrated with the community as soon as possible. You get to meet 25, 35 founders coming to this event. Also, if you join before the end of the year, we're going to get you into a mastermind, which is going to start in 2026, has the ability to change your life and your business. So definitely recommend, if you want to join DC Black, give me a call or email me, ian@dynamitecircle.com. I will walk you through what goes on in the community, and we'll figure out if it's the right move for you in 2026.
Can I tell you what ChatGPT said about our ICP, Ian?
Yeah.
You do these ICP episodes, ideal client profile. They went into the forum. I don't know where AI goes nowadays. It read our emails or something. And it came up with a remarkably interesting insight about the types of founders that we hang around with, the types of folks that are listening. And it basically said, this founder has built themselves a life of freedom and autonomy such that they're nervous that they don't have any peer accountability. So it's this weird double-edged sword where we live in unique places, we hang out with unique people. We might not be around a bunch of people who are giving us that social pressure to succeed. Like if you moved to New York and you were in finance or something. But we didn't want to do that. So we did our own thing. But now we're a one of one. And it sure would be nice to sit around with 5 or 6 other people and be like, oh, so-and-so is doing that. Or I'm inspired by that. Or maybe they can help me stay accountable so I can continue to grow. But I don't want to do it with the normies. I thought that was interesting. I'm nervous that I don't have accountability. That was a big trigger. And I do think that a lot of us are okay, I'm free now, but nobody knows that I'm not doing my best. And I'd like to share that information with somebody, particularly somebody who's going to help me out and be my best entrepreneurial self.
Interesting. Well, there you go. So AI is going to be better at our jobs than we are.
Yeah,
I think they've articulated our community that we've run for nearly 15 years much better than we have. Congratulations, we're out of the job.
All right. Thank you to everybody for listening. And thank you to Matthew, especially for writing in. And thank you to everybody who filled out that survey that's in the show notes. We're getting a ton of good ideas and information for everybody who filled out the survey the past few weeks. And we're reading every single one. And one of you will get one of these diagnostic coaching sessions with Ian or myself. So we're looking forward to that. That's it for this week. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next Thursday, as is per the usual.
See you then.